The Los Angeles Rams continue to prove the experts wrong. We've got 10 big takeaways from the Rams' 30-22 win over the Saints on Thursday Night Football, the updated playoff chances, and more. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and let us know what was your biggest takeaway from the Rams' 30-22 win over the Saints. They're now over 500 at 8-7 on the season. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA, covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, SI Dodgers Nation. As always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's in his 8th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the people's champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, we got a jam-packed show for you. Our big takeaways from the Rams win, what we like, what we didn't like, where the playoff chances stand right now. But this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Now, Travis, what a turnaround this season has been for the Los Angeles Rams, starting at 3-6. Their postseason odds look bleak. Now they've absolutely have just caught fire, winning 5 of their last 6 games. They're now 8-7. They're 6th place in the NFC. Our boy Shohei Ohtani was in the house. I want to get your thoughts on that. Told him the football, he was going to throw the football. I think he already has a higher QBR than Zach Wilson. Question is, can he kick?
Yeah, they might need him to kick. And by the way, if he could, I wouldn't even be a little bit surprised. There's probably nothing that the guy can't do. It was crazy to see him in the building last night. It really was because it was raining yesterday. We typically do our pregame show outside the stadium, like right in the concourse at SoFi, inside the gates, but not inside the stadium. But because it was raining, they moved us into the press box, and we did the show from there. And all of a sudden, there's a little bit of buzz like, hey, Ohtani's in the house. And, you know, people like myself that have been doing this a long time, been around a long time. It's like usually when you hear like, you know, LeBron is around, everybody's like, yeah, cool, whatever. And they just kind of keep it moving. Ohtani's here? Really? Like, and then all of a sudden you see him down on the field, you see him getting the jersey, you see him kind of interacting with everybody. And it was extraordinary. I was waiting for them to put him up on the big board. And when they did it, the place went nuts. And what made it so exciting, other than just that he was there and he's with the Dodgers, is that he's been in LA, or at least Southern California, for 6 years, and it was like he just dropped in from a totally different area. It was incredibly exciting. And then, of course, the Yamamoto news at the end of the night, to go with the fact that the Rams looked terrific. You know, they're back over 500 for the first time since week 1. The last time the Rams were over 500, they were 1-0, and now they're back on the right side. They look great doing it. A couple of bumps along the way, but all in all, a pretty fantastic night at SoFi Stadium.
It's incredible to see what they're able to accomplish at this point in the season. When you consider the downs against the Packers of Brett Rippon, the blowout loss to the Cowboys, no one would have thought this weeks and weeks ago, but give credit to Sean McVay, and I think that's where it starts. Sean McVay setting the tone in that first drive, going for it there on that 4th down. You hit Puka Nacua underneath for the touchdown. That absolutely set the tone. Then later in the half, towards the end, you get the big stop on 4th down. You drive down the field, and you're able to get another scoring drive there to really help get this team the lead that they got, which was at 30-7 at one point. Now, they do have some issues finishing games. There's no doubt about that. You have the big play issues that kind of reared the ugly head once again. But really, as a whole, just winning on Thursday night, you mentioned it was the first time they've been over 500 since after week one. How about the first time they played in front of a national audience in prime time since the Bengals in Monday Night Football early in the year? Now the rest of the league is seeing that, hey, this Rams team is for real. And right now, there's 72% chance of making the playoffs, up from 48% this weekend. For a little mini viewing rooting guide, if the Seahawks beat the Titans, the Rams drop to 65%. If the Vikings beat the Lions, they go to 55%. But if both those teams win, go to 80%. So I'm telling you right now, no one wants to play this Rams team. The 49ers saw what happened when they played the Rams in the playoffs in 2021. Shout out to Jaquaski Tart. You saw the Eagles, the way they're playing right now. Do you really want that rematch? The Cowboys are the Cowboys in the playoffs. Do the Lions, that's their worst nightmare, to face a Matthew Stafford in the playoffs. I'm telling you, this Rams team is dangerous, and they're the only team in the NFC where you got a Super Bowl winning head coach and a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
They're the worst combination that you're seeing if you're anybody else that's in the postseason, because you just said it, D-Mac. They're playing their best football of the year right now. The Philadelphia Eagles are not. The Dallas Cowboys are not. The Detroit Lions are not. 49ers, they're a little bit of a different animal. They're always going to be a bad matchup for the Rams, but they're hot. So that's their win. They're relatively healthy. You know, their most important guys are healthy at this point in the season. Knocking on wood right there that it stays that way. But you just mentioned it. They have a coach that's going to put them in a great position to win, that's going to put together a game plan that's going to be effective, and they have a quarterback who has the perfect combination of things you're looking for. He's experienced, he's intelligent, and he's not scared, and he can still make every throw on the field. And Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, against anybody, they have a chance. Now, the defense has got to be a little bit better. We'll talk about, like you mentioned, you got to be a little bit better closing out games. But Stafford plus McVay plus momentum and health, let's go. Let's see what happens. Like, this is where they are is remarkable to me. I did not think this was the very best version of this team. And guess what? They got the very best version of this team out of this group. It's a testament to McVay. It's a testament to the players. It's been a fantastic last month and a half.
It absolutely has. You mentioned this last month and a half. It took the Ravens on the road in the rain, one of the best teams in the NFL, to beat this Rams team after the bye. They could theoretically, honestly, be a top 5 team right now as far as how they look today. You got to, like you said, give credit to Sean McVay, but also wanted to show Stafford some love, because I think Matthew Stafford is playing as well right now than he did in 2022 when he had 41 touchdowns in the regular season. You're seeing him throw more underneath routes there, more short intermediate routes there. It's not just the big home run swings deep. You're seeing him mix things up. Kyren Williams has been a revelation at his 3rd straight 100-yard game. Kyren Williams, right? The most that Matthew Stafford had ever had from a running back in a season on his team was 3 for an entire year. It's the first time in his career he's had a consistent running game. He goes 24 of 34, 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he made a handful of big-time throws on one-hand throws. What I mean by that is there's only a couple you can count on one hand the quarterbacks that can make the kind of throws that he made. The Demarcus Robinson throw at the end of the first half. The throw to Puka Nacua on the 41-yard that led to points. He's just in his bag right now. 14 touchdowns and 1 interception in his last 5 games. I could not be more happy with the performance of Matty Stafford.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of things, D-Mac, that I think are incredibly important. Not only has he had a career high of 3 guys rushing for 100 yards prior to this year, he had never had a running back post 100-yard games in back-to-back weeks ever until Kyren Williams did it last week against Washington. He made it 3 in a row last night against the New Orleans Saints. He is in his bag. He is playing as well as I've ever seen him play. We were talking about this in the postgame show last night. You talk about the great quarterbacks of the last 10, 15 years or so, and you're going to talk about Mahomes. You're going to talk about Brady. You're going to talk about Manning. You know, maybe you throw a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson in there as well. And these guys are all great players. But because Matthew Stafford was on a bad team for the vast majority of his career, because, like you were just saying a minute ago, the Lions were not on national TV outside of a Thanksgiving early morning game, people did not get to see what he's capable of doing. Think about what's happening. The greatest wide receiver season ever, Calvin Johnson, Matthew Stafford. The second greatest wide receiver ever as far as yardage goes, Cooper Kupp. The quarterback, Matthew Stafford. With 147 more yards over the final 2 games, Puka Nacua will have the greatest rookie wide receiver season ever in terms of yards. The quarterback, Matthew Stafford. This is not a coincidence. The man is absolutely fantastic. He's playing at a high level, and the Rams are jamming, and it's awesome to watch.
Absolutely, and I think there's no doubt about it that this is someone that was out to prove that he still has it this season. I definitely just wish that Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford had played their entire careers together. We could see a dynasty in LA, but you're right. I mean, it's about circumstance, right? Rodgers, Breeze, Brady, they were put in better situations than Matthew Stafford was. But look, the good thing is we're getting to see it now. He has a Super Bowl ring. My opinion, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame despite having only made 1 Super Bowl. But also, Matthew Stafford can't do what he does without the performance of the offensive line. Like you always mention on this show, it's good when we don't talk about them because it means they're doing their job. But the return of Rob Havenstein, it paid dividends. He was clean the entire game, sacked just once. They were opening up holes for Kyren Williams, so got to give him some credit as well.
Yeah, the O-line was great. You heard Sean McVay was talking about it last night, and he was as complimentary of his group as he has ever heard or ever sounded, at least to me. And, you know, he's a positive guy. He's always somebody that's going to find a silver lining, but he was just like, yeah, they played great. They played great. They played great. It was really interesting to see that they're firing on all cylinders right now. The defense, a couple of miscommunication moments down there last night, but they're the proverbial team nobody wants to play. They got to take care of business in New York. I'm sure we'll spend a lot of time talking about that next week, but there really isn't much to complain about right now outside of their kicking game. They're playing great football offensively. I think that was the best night they've had all season long. They're firing. It's terrific.
Like you said, getting hot at the right time, and that's sometimes the most important things when it comes to raise that Lombardi trophy. And we'll talk about that kicker situation in the next segment for stuff we didn't like. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
All right, so you're watching football, right? You're enjoying your day, and you're thinking, you know what? I could use a little bit of something right now, but I don't want to leave. I don't want to make sure that I have to jump in the car and go to DoorDash. What are you waiting for, right? DoorDash, 50% off, up to $10 value on your first order. There are all the chain places that you want, right? You can do that. That's always a great option. I've done it myself. But what I like to do with my DoorDash, I like to go maybe, early Sunday morning after a Saturday watching a little football. You're not really dying to run out the door. Do a little Ted's breakfast burrito from my house. Right to the door with DoorDash. All your favorite restaurants and stores, retail to grocery, they're all in the app so you can shop everything you need to get yourself game day ready. And right now you can get up to 50% off a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on that first order with DoorDash when you put the DoorDash app on your phone and enter the code LOCKED23. Subject to change, terms apply. Again, 50% off up to a $10 value and you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download that DoorDash app and enter the code LOCKED23. Also, let me tell you about our pals at Logic. You know on this show that you get a lot of in-depth analysis and you get some hot takes, right? Well, let me give you the hottest take of the day. The best lineup in LA right now is the lineup of auto loans at Logix. They start off at the top with the favorites, right? The proven and dependable new and used vehicle loans. You can count on these guys to give you low rates and save you big time bucks. Next up, they've got an exciting new rookie sensation in their electric vehicle loans with super low rates and flexible payment terms. And rounding out that Logix lineup, they've got their auto refinancing loans and lease buyout loans. With these guys, you can lower your monthly payments and get on the road to owning your car faster. I know it's a hot take, but seriously, no one can beat the lineup at Logix. Visit your local Logix branch right here in Los Angeles and let one of their amazing team members help you or just apply online in minutes at logixbanking.com. That's LOGIX banking.com.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a shout out to our everyday listeners out there. We appreciate you watching every episode, listening to every episode. Cannot thank you enough. You can join that Everyday Listeners Club too. Membership is 100% free, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Now, Travis, picking it up here in our second segment, want to focus a little bit on the defense because it wasn't the best night for the Rams defense. I thought, though, when you consider the offense for the Saints. Chris Olave, he was cooking early on. They really neutralized Alvin Kamara, which I appreciate because I was going up against him in my fantasy football championship. Shout out to Rams demons for that. The Saints, though, didn't go 3-and-out once the entire game. They were 5 for 11 on third downs, but it was the big plays during the big situations. Ernest Jones got a pass breakup on third down. He sacked Derek Carr to take him out of field goal range there. That Kobe Turner sack on 4th and 5 caused a turnover on downs. The 4th down stop there at the end of the half that led to the Demarcus Robinson touchdown before the half. The Saints offense go 0 for 3 on 4th down. Then the big Jordan Fuller interception there in the third quarter. They made plays when they need to. And when you got an offense performing like that, this is the kind of defense, if you play like this, you can't win football games.
That's it. I mean, you nailed it. That's exactly right. Would you like to have the 85 Bears defense? Sure. Would you like to have that 2000 Ravens or the early 2002 Bucks? Yeah, that'd be great to have, 14 Hall of Famers spread out over the defensive side of the field. That's not what this group is. They're going to give up some yardage. They're going to give up some plays, but they tend to get off the field. If you're going to look at and you're just hoping that, okay, the opponent, they can't move the ball at all. They're going 3 and out. But that's not what this defense is. They get off the field. They don't give up a ton of points. 22 points I know is, kind of in the middle in the NFL, but again, that never really felt like the game was in jeopardy. They had one busted coverage. You could tell Ahkello Witherspoon kind of looking at Fuller like, dude, I thought you were going to be there. They got to get that kind of stuff cleaned up along the way. But this is a defense that is, and I don't mean this disrespectfully at all. I mean it as a compliment. It's good enough. It's good enough to do what they need them to do for them to win games. It's good enough for them to let the offense go do what it's supposed to do. The defense did the hard work this season in the middle of the year, grabbing some games here and there, holding the opponents under 20 points. Now that the offense is caught up, now that Stafford, and obviously Puka's been great all year, Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp looks like himself again. You mentioned Demarcus Robinson a few times, who has been a revelation for this team over the last month and a half. This is a team that's led with its offense first, but the defense is good enough. I do not worry about going into Detroit or going into Philly or even going into Dallas necessarily and feeling like they can't get off the field when they need to, because they absolutely can.
Absolutely. And when you consider the fact that heading into this season, this was supposed to be one of the worst defenses in the history of the National Football League. And now we have a C plus, sometimes B minus defense. You pair that with an A plus offense at times, you can compete in this league. How you brought up the big play, Ahkello Witherspoon, of course, he's defending. And then Jordan Fuller, he takes the bait. He bites on that. He thought he had help over the top, and you get the big play. That is a cause for concern, is the big plays. You saw two. You saw the other one. Kobe Durant gave that 35-yard touchdown to A.T. Perry. But my man was absolutely mauled. That should have been offensive pass interference in that situation. And I think certain situations, that's just going to be the case. And you just got to hope that you keep lining up the scoreboard on the other side. They're not going to get a ton of pressure, not going to get a ton of sacks. But guys like Ernest Jones making plays throughout the game. Anytime you see this a couple times a game, it's a good day for the Los Angeles Rams when the conductor is doing his thing. But Travis, next thing I want to ask you about, though, when it comes to defense, I'm pretty sure Raheem Morris is a Locked On fan every day, because last episode we made the case, I pounded my fist that Darian Kendrick needed to get benched, and he did just that. I said, you got to play Kobe Durant at the outside corner spot. They went with that. You saw Quentin Lake, who's continuing to emerge there in the star role. I thought Kobe Durant did a really, really nice job. Gave that play there. Like I said, I think it was offensive PI, but for the most part, I think they're better off with Ahkello and Durant on the outside and having Quentin Lake play that star role right there.
Yeah, Quentin Lake stepping into that slot, that nickel corner spot, he's been really good, and it allows them to kind of try some things along the way. And like you talked about, maybe that group of three guys at the corner positions is their best group. And look, the last time we got close to seeing Darian Kendrick get benched, he responded and started playing well again. Maybe that's what this will lead to as well. Again, this is not Deion Sanders and Jalen Ramsey and Darrelle Revis out there doing what they do, but it's good enough. It's good enough to win games. It's good enough to keep their offense in games. I think Raheem Morris has done a good job. They give up the ball moves, but points don't go on the board, and it's a little frustrating. It's a little nerve-wracking to watch the ball move up and down the field, but look at the score at the end of the night, and the Rams have done a good job there.
They absolutely did. And just kind of go back to the offense, it Feels a little weird to go this long through the show without talking about Puka Nacua because he was phenomenal once again. 2 rushes for 16 yards. He also had 9 catches for 164 yards, had a touchdown, had that beautiful 41-yard catch there early in the second half. And he continues to climb. 96 passes, 1,327 yards, 5 touchdowns, 10 rushes for 70 yards on the season. If it weren't for C.J. Stroud, he'd be the offensive rookie of the year. But I like our boy Sean McVay saying that he'd vote for Puka Nacua for offensive rookie of the year.
Well, sure. I mean, C.J. Stroud's been great. No disrespect to him at all. But Nacua might set an NFL record. He's 134 yards away from putting up more receiving yardage than any rookie wide receiver in history. And that's maybe Saturday or Sunday. You know, when they go and play on New Year's Eve in New York, he could put that up, split it in half. That's 70 yards a game. That's something that feels very realistic for him to get done. I think he's going to do it. They've got a 3-headed monster at wide receiver, and I couldn't even tell you which the biggest head is. Is it Cup or is it Puka? I don't know, and that's a great problem to have. And then Demarcus Robinson is really kind of coming to his own. You saw him get that touchdown right before the end of the first half last night. He's not only catching passes, he's getting into the end zone. He had a big 4th down catch. He is a difference-making player as well. He's a veteran player, and all those guys are giving Matthew Stafford the ability to kind of just deal back there. He just, one for you, a couple for you, a couple for you. And last night, only 4 guys caught passes. Like, it wasn't where he was spreading it all over, but it never felt like he was zeroed in on one particular guy. Puka's just been terrific. I can't say enough about him.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, Bill Groman, watch out. Puka 146 yards away from tying him for most receiving yards by a rookie. I'm calling right here. He's going to get that number. He's going to set the new record for all rookies. Puka, you're going to do it. Now, as far as a depth chart position, where there's someone in the Rams depth chart that continues to slide, are they phasing him out? And what were they going to do with the kicker spot? It's more what we like and what we didn't like here. And our 10 big takeaways from the Rams' 30-22 win over the Saints. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
All right, so if you put that PrizePicks app on your phone, simple as that. Put PrizePicks on your phone and start playing PrizePicks because it's awesome. It's fun. You're going to have a good time. I absolutely promise. It's the most fun I've had playing DFS. I couldn't say in a long time, but it's the most fun I've had ever. Here's why. It's easy. It's fun. You put the app on your phone, and you look at the statistical projections. You want to look at NFL games, NBA games. You kind of cross the two together, and you pick more or less. You can win up to 25 times your money. But pick between 2 and 6 players. You look at the numbers. Is McCaffrey going to have more than 75 yards? Is Patrick Mahomes going to have more or less than 2 passing touchdowns? You make your call, and if you win, you win. It's that easy. Up to 25 times your money. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports. So this is what you got to get going. You got to put that PrizePicks on your phone. You got to make sure that you're ready to do it. You got to make sure that you put in the code LOCKEDONNFL to get that first deposit match of up to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. The code LockedOnNFL, LOCKEDONNFL for a first deposit match of up to $100. Go have a great time. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And also want to send a special shout out to those everyday listeners and also let you know that there is a new Locked On National Network, also Locked On Sports Los Angeles, where you can find Dodgers, Lakers, Chargers, Clippers content. So be sure to subscribe and watch that. First in the game, the best in the game. Now, here in our final segment, got to pick this up as we're talking about Demarcus Robinson. And yes, he's got his opportunities, but it does feel like they're phasing out Tutu Atwell. Now, it felt like the beginning of the season, this was going to be it. This was going to be the breakout season. He had 119 yards receiving in the Rams home opener, that 30-13 win over the Seahawks. Then you've seen the production go down. Had a pretty nice game a few weeks ago against the Cardinals. But last night, he played in just 6% of the Rams' offensive snaps, just 4 snaps total. Compare that to Marcus Robinson at 93%. And Robinson, he was productive again, 82 yards, had another touchdown, his 4th straight game with a TD. Brings them some speed, brings them some size, some athleticism. It feels like it's set in stone right now. Rams have their big 3 at receiver.
He just does more than Tutu. You know, with all due respect to Tutu, yeah. Tutu does one thing. He's really fast. That's the list. Like Demarcus Robinson is a wide receiver in the NFL. He's played in the Super Bowl before. He can run all the routes. He's a bigger guy. He's a more physical guy. He's going to be able to challenge at the point of the ball far more often than Tutu is. Tutu is scary because of that high-end speed, and he makes the defense stay honest if he's going to try to pull those guys along with him as he goes down the field. But the fact of the matter is, the Rams don't throw that route all that often. They're much more intricate in what they do with Kupp and Nacua, and now with Robinson. He just doesn't do enough things. He can't really play in the middle of the field because of his small stature. It's just I think his relative success in the early to the mid part of the season was more out of necessity than anything else, because Kupp wasn't around and wasn't playing at a high level. They really hadn't started to integrate Robinson into the offense. But once Robinson got a chance, when Tutu went down with that concussion, you could just, the difference jumped off the page. And I really don't see him going back for any reason other than something happens to somebody else and there's an injury and Tutu's got to step in and fill that void, because it's just different. It's just the offense is entirely different with those 3 guys than it has been with Tutu.
I agree. And I think that's the best point, is that it feels like a more complete offense where he can spread out on any given play. Does he go to Kupp? Does he go to Nacua? Does he go to Robinson? And sometimes he'll go to Robinson in the biggest moments. And especially in the red zone. And that's where we've seen the Rams for the most part this season. They've been a great red zone team for what they're trying to accomplish. Last night, didn't do the best in the red zone, but he gives them a viable red zone target. And yes, Tutu has that frontline speed, right? But it's the functional football speed of Demarcus Robinson and how he uses it in space and to just kind of size up guys and put himself in great positions to make plays. And yeah, I think you got to feel really good about this Rams receiving core. Robinson almost feels like, to a little bit of a lesser degree, the receiver version of Ahkello Witherspoon, right? As far as a veteran on a cheaper deal, that just, he got his opportunity, he's ran with it. Now, you got the red zone offense. We talked about that. You settled for 3 field goals for 34 yards. Cooper Kupp, he dropped that pass, would have been a fantastic catch. He had the incomplete pass on 3rd down where it kind of spiked out of Stafford's hand, and probably could have leaned a little more on Kyron Williams down there in the red zone, but still can't really complain. 30 points again. But of course, the biggest gripe is the field goal kicking. We might have a red alert big time problem with Luke Haversick. It's making me sick just watch him go out there and shank kicks. And we're talking about a team that can't afford to leave any points on the board. I feel like maybe they might have moved on a little too quickly from Brett Maher at this point, Travis.
Well, it is what it is, right, D-Mac? That this is the soft spot on this team. And if it comes down to a kick, they're in big trouble. They've missed 11 field goals this year. That's the most in the NFL. Wow. It's the most in the NFL in any single season since 2015. It's bad. And he's not going to get better. I mean, hopefully he makes the kicks he needs to make, but it's not like Justin Turner or Tucker, I should say. I got my Dodger brain on. Justin Tucker is going to just all of a sudden become a Ram tomorrow. There is no solution that's going to walk through that door. That Maher was bad. Luke Haversick is not much better. You saw him miss another one in the 40s last night. That it's just not good. And you hope that it doesn't come down to a kick. And if it does, you cross your fingers. It's really the Rams' entire special teams. You saw him get a punt block last night. We saw him lose in Baltimore because they couldn't handle punt coverage. They had a breakdown right there. We talked about the kicking game. This is the part of their team that is not good. Full stop. Other than Ethan Evans, it's just not good. And you hope it doesn't come back to bite you. But 11 missed kicks through 15 weeks is just unacceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. That block punt, that definitely gave the Saints some momentum.
Sure.
And that definitely hurt him for sure. But I mean, 2 for 6 from 40 to 49 for Haversick. You are not an NFL kicker, right? No. Update that LinkedIn, because it's just not going to work out. Now, Riley Patterson was recently waived by the Detroit Lions. He's someone that people feel like he could be a viable option. You see him listed on on lists of teams looking for kickers. I don't know if they want to go that route, but clearly this team has gone too far. They've come too far this season to let a kicker possibly be just a non-option. I mean, you can't have Luke Haversick lose you games, and it's also just the way he's missing kicks. I mean, we're talking about bad shanks. It almost feels like it's the Dr. Pepper halftime show, and you're letting fans kick balls and it's just missing that bad, like the Carlton missed shot, like we said a couple days ago. I mean, it's just not going to work. They have to move on. So 33% rate right there from 40 to 49. That's definitely going to be problematic in the playoffs.
Well, like you said, it's one thing if you're not banging through 50-yarders regularly. That's kind of like the NFL extra that you're hoping to find. But if you're 45 yards and in, I'm going to need you to make that kick. And they're not making them. And they're not making them nearly at the rate that they should. It's a problem. I wish there was an easy solution. And I guess the fix is don't let it come down to a kick. I guess the fix is score touchdowns. I guess the fix is get closer, right? Because, he kicked another 21 or 22 yarder or whatever it is last night. He had a couple that were shorties like that. And, he can make those, which I guess is good enough. But I wouldn't be surprised if it does affect the way that maybe Sean McVay goes about doing some things, knowing that much beyond 30 or 35 yards, you're kind of flipping a coin, and maybe that coin flip's not even weighted in your favor. It's probably weighted the other way. It's a problem. I'd love to say that it's not that big of a deal. It's a big deal, and we'll see how it shakes out.
Bring in Riley Patterson. I'm telling you, Rams. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram. And you can always follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. By the way, if you did not catch Mr. Travis Rogers on the intro of TNF, go back on Amazon and watch our boy represent Locked On Rams, the GOAT, Mr. Travis Rogers, the People's Champ. You can follow him on the X at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.